Good morning and welcome back. It's quite a cold morning this morning. It's overcast, it's miserable, it's not very cheerful, but nonetheless I'll enjoy a walk with the dog shortly. Today, or this week, I really want to focus on my vegetable garden and plan out what I want to grow for this year. So I don't have a big vegetable garden. I'm just going to move forward, and we have Luna joining me behind me on my seat, little cushion. Yes, I don't have a big vegetable garden because I don't have an awful lot of time to spend out there on the vegetables and some fruits, but I do like to grow some of my own. And as I mentioned last week, I've also got Molly down here, so I'm stroking Molly as well. That's why I'm making funny movements. I do like to include seasonal vegetables and fruits in my diet as much as possible, and growing my own is one way to do that. And clearly we can't all do that, and so I've got other hints and tips on what to do and things I do to ensure I get some seasonal veg throughout the year. So I'll come to that shortly. However, for those of you who are busy and don't want to sit and listen to the preamble and what I do in the garden, please look at the timeline in the description and you'll see the time slots of when I start to speak about other items, other things like vegetable boxes and freezers and things like that. So last year I grew a few vegetables actually. I had some lettuce, cut and come again near the house. I had some tomatoes. I've got a bed full of strawberries, which hopefully will do better this year coming. Last year wasn't terribly good. Courgettes were very good last year. I have some runner beans, which I didn't make the most of. I couldn't get down and pick them quickly enough. And then I've got a bed of kale. That's been really good. That's still giving me kale. I'm still picking that. So the same as this, it's the same for chard and perpetual spinach. They're still giving. So they've been particularly good, and I want to keep those on this year's list. So what I've got is, very importantly, my cup of tea, cup of green tea. I've got my notebook, and I've got a couple of books on growing vegetables to help inspire me. So I'm going to go through those initially and write a list of the vegetables I'd like to grow, and then I'll cull it because I know I won't have time to do all of them. I also want to look at when to sow them and then when to harvest, because I quite like to have something throughout the year if I can, rather than one big glut at one time. So that's my plan for this week, is to start this rolling, see what seeds I already have, see if they've survived the winter in the old wagon at the end of the garden, which is not waterproof now. So I need to go and check and see if they're usable, and then write out my little shopping list and decide where I'm going to get them from as well. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get started. My vegetable box has arrived. Usually has a leaflet in there telling you what's in the box, but doesn't seem to be one here today. But I've got quite a few lovely things. There's about 8 items, 7 or 8 items in here. So I'll just run through them with you. So first I have a bag of lamb's lettuce. I have some beautiful chard. I've got another celeriac. I've got a double stack. It looks a bit like a snowman. I had one of these last week. That's quite nice for a mash and very quick actually. I do celery chips as well with this. It can go in soups or stews. Quite ugly and dirty, but very nice. I've got courgettes, 3 lovely courgettes. I've got some beautiful parsnips. I won't take them all out. I do have some tomatoes as well. I have some beautiful carrots, lots of carrots in here. Some leeks, which are seasonal, and a bag of potatoes. And so quite a nice amount of veg, so there's quite a lot I can do with this, and I have this delivered every week. Well, I've just put my vegetables away in the fridge, and I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk about frozen vegetables. I mentioned the other day I often use frozen berries because I find them very useful. And I used to think the quality of frozen vegetables wasn't very good, but I have learned that that is not necessarily the case. The real good side of frozen vegetables is those fruits and veg are generally picked when they're ripe. And this is when they're at the height of their nutrient value. And then they're frozen within 2 to 3 hours of being picked. Now that's really quick. So they're really sort of encapsulating and catching that nutritional quality in the vegetables and the fruits. So having a bag or 2 of fruits and vegetables in your freezer, it can be really beneficial. Now, I tend not to grow peas because they take quite a lot of processing when you want to pod them, and the frozen peas are so good, it seems silly for me to take my time up producing peas when the frozen pea is top notch, let's say. Now, I used to buy a lot of organic vegetables and I wasn't really aware of where they were coming from. But again, I learnt more about organic fruits and vegetables from around the world. They're often picked before they're ripe, and that's so they don't completely spoil before they get to this country, into the stores, and then into our kitchens and on our tables. So they're not at their full peak of nutrition. And they were told that they ripen en route. Well, that's not really true. Once they're picked, they don't ripen anymore. They can still develop, but you could say they can deteriorate. So there might be a slight difference between some fruits and vegetables, bananas for instance. But in general, they are deteriorating. And the nutrient value is reducing as they deteriorate. So I tend to avoid buying organic that's travelling hundreds and hundreds of miles, and I prefer to go for more local, or I might choose something completely different. So the fact I have apple trees in the garden, I prefer our apples. I do go for British apples, even if they're not organic. I prefer mine because they are grown without any pesticides. I don't spray anything in the garden. I don't think I ever have actually. I've never thought that would be a good idea. So I don't spray anything. So I do choose homegrown over organic if I know it's going to travel for miles and miles. But it's whatever you can do and whatever's convenient. And sometimes if you're trying to do a particular dish, you just go with the flow. So again, we're looking for a development and not perfection. And I think do what's right for you with the idea in mind that you can do something a little better maybe next time, which will support your health more. So we want to avoid pesticides and anything else that's sprayed on our fruits and vegetables, because we can absorb it into our bloodstream and it can then affect us negatively in some way or another. So that's the general idea. Go for what you can and what your pocket can afford. That's another thing. Organic is actually quite expensive nowadays as well. Well, it's always been higher price, but I'm priced out of the market with some things at the moment, but I make some different choices. So I hope that helps you. I hope you feel happy about getting some frozen produce in the freezer. Really great go-to if you think, boy, I haven't got such and such, you might have something in the freezer. And vegetable boxes I really recommend. it's been a game changer for me, and it's nice knowing that the quality is there. I rarely have a bad one, a bad fruit or veg sent to me. Very, very, very rare. Anyway, I'm going to move on now. I want to carry on with my planning. I haven't finished my planning for the vegetable garden, so I'm going to get on with that and catch up with you again shortly. It's a couple of days later now, and I have completed my vegetable growing plan. I may add to it as time goes on, and I've decided on a number of vegetables, and I put it on a sheet. Now I'll just bring this closer. So I've actually put it out on a sheet, written it all down. So I've listed the vegetable, when to sow, when to plant out, and then when the harvest period is. And what I've found is, I've gone for pretty much the same as last year. The Cavolo Nero kale was really good, and you can harvest that between September and March, which is phenomenal. That's really good. It gets us through that awkward winter period. Perpetual spinach is harvested between May and November, and the chard all year. So you might need to do a few extra sowings, but most of these need to be sown in April. Now what I'm going to do is get the seed packets out, which I'll do in a minute, and check what the seed packets say. They've got the greater detail on there, but this is giving me an outline. So I'm going to grow Cavolo Nero, perpetual spinach, chard, courgettes, French beans, that's a new one for me, runner beans, spring onions, tomatoes, and I want to do some cherry tomatoes this year. I've got some hanging baskets, and I think they might be nice in there. Keep them away from the dogs because they like cherry tomatoes and they like strawberries. And then the lettuce, cut and come again, and then beetroot. I've tried beetroot before and I've never been successful with beetroot, so I want to give that another go. And they are harvested between June and October, and it's a beautiful veg, a really lovely veg. So that's my plan. I decided against vegetables like potatoes, carrots and onions because I get those in my vegetable box. They take up a lot of space in the garden. Previously I have grown all of them successfully, including the carrots, which can be troublesome because of the carrot fly. But I've done them all successfully, but I decided they take up a lot of room. I get them in my veggie box. I will just get those from the vegetable box, and you can actually buy those organic versions in the supermarket. So that's my thinking there. I might put in some more strawberry plants, but I call them wild strawberries. I have some strawberries down there. They're tiny and they taste like vanilla. And I had the first plant, I think, courtesy of a bird. I never planted them. And I've got loads of those now because they just send out runners, and I've got loads of those. But I also bought some other varieties last year, and I cannot tell you what they were. I cannot remember, but they weren't very successful. So I'm hoping for more there. At some point I'd like to do raspberries, but I think they're not going to be on my list just yet. I think I've got enough to cope with here. So let's have a look at the seed packets that I've found and see what I need to get. I've got my box from the wagon down the end, so it's a bit tatty because it's not well protected in there. And what have I got? I've got some Sarah Raven bits and bobs. I bought some seeds from Sarah Raven last year as well as some plants, and they were excellent. Rhubarb, I planted those out, some rhubarb seeds. I had this as a freebie with some perfume, and I planted them out, and I've got a few good plants coming. it's not often that I think you grow them from seed, but they're working. And then I've still got some Gardener's Delight seeds, yellow pear, and what's this one? One other. Oh, I don't think there's anything in there. These were a gift from a friend. She sent them to me via mail order. There's another one. They're tomato seeds. And the company is So. Let's Grow Better Together. So they were nice, and I've still got some seeds, and I'll try them again this year. In fact, my details say that sowing tomato you can start in February, and I think it's a good idea because mine were so late last year that a lot of them, they didn't really ripen because the weather changed, and yeah, I missed an opportunity there. So I'm going to plant those earlier. In fact, I think it's just fair to say the books I've been using, it's Carol Klein, Grow Your Own Veg. I've had this quite a few years. It's a really good book. This is where I got a lot of my detail about sowing, when to sow, Brussels sprouts, I didn't think about them, when to sow, plant out and harvest. So that's a really good book. The other book I really like is Claire Matthews, The Maintenance Vegetable Garden. The low maintenance, beg your pardon. And I bought this because it said low maintenance, and she starts off with building your beds and then going on to each of the different types of vegetable, and then a little bit in the back about pests and the tools that you might need. So these are two, I think, really lovely books. You can of course get information online as well, but they're the two that I've been referring to for this season. So let's see what I've got. This is a Sarah Raven White Emergo, an organic runner bean. So I'll do that again. So the beans are white, but the runner beans are normal green beans. So I've got plenty of those in there. So from April. July 2022. Perhaps I didn't get these last year. Must have had this before. But I think with seeds, they can go off. But I'm pretty sure Kew Gardens planted a seed that was 40 or 50 years old, and it actually germinated. And I think whilst they're dormant and kept in good conditions, they should germinate. So I'm going to try them anyway. Some Cavolo Nero. Got some seeds there. Sweet peas, I might do some sweet peas. They're not edible, but pretty. Sweet basil, this is ancient. They look like the flowers, all my little flowers, all courgettes. Not sure how old that one is. Oh no, that's just last year, we can cope with that. Cauliflower, I'm not doing chives. I might try some more chives. And peas. Yeah, looks like I might have to get a few more seeds. What have I got here? Oh, some spring onions. Broccoli. Chamomile, I might plant that this year. Yes, it looks like I'm a bit short, but some lettuce. Right, well, I'm going to have a good look through. In here I've saved some seeds, but I don't know what they are. Pepper seeds. Some peppers. So, my little sign, Samantha's Garden, all welcome. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, so I hope this has given you some ideas. I've also grown vegetables from plug plants, so I haven't always sown the seeds, and that's another nice, easy way to do it. And you can actually sort that out later in the year. You don't have to do that right now. So if you look at the planting out, which for me, planting out starts in May. So May and June are the main months for planting out. So if you can get some plug plants, put them out, or try something on the windowsill, herbs on the windowsill. And that's a really good idea because the herbs pack a punch, and I think they're really worth doing and adds so much flavour. So I hope this has helped. Buy some frozen veg, get your veggie box. And yes, I ought to say none of this, any of the names I've mentioned, it's because I use the products. It's not because I'm sponsored. It's not because I've got any advertising. There's nothing involved there other than my just choice to use their products. So hope to see you again soon.